Yo, how's everybody doing? Yeah, everybody's looking forward to Christmas, right? Everybody's nice and distracted. What's this I have on the screen? Oh, nothing. Hey, 2023 government funding legislation. House Appropriations Committee Chair Rosa DeLauro, Democrat. Who's DeLauro anyway? Oh, good. Look at that. Merry Christmas, y'all. That's a congresswoman. Would you stop, Pan? Damn, man. 70 years old with freaking purple hair. Right on. Yeah, she cool, man. She cool. Anyway. Whatever that is, released the omnibus. Now, you know why they call it the omnibus, right? Like, it's basically an omnibus is a term for a large bus that can carry everything. Omnibus spending bill, it kind of makes sense when you think about it. It's actually an insult, to say that there's, a bunch of stuff in this bill that doesn't belong. However, this website is the appropriations.house.gov, so we just call it the omnibus bill now. It's an insult, but that's the actual names now, and it could not be more appropriate. This is what's going to fund the government for 2023, next year. You know how much it costs? Yeah, they'll tell you. They don't mind. They'll tell you. $1.7 trillion for 1 year. 1 year. Anybody see this? I wouldn't blame you if you didn't. Plenty of stuff to be distracted by. You got the Twitter files, right? The scandal, the FBI specifically, just doing their Stasi thing, doing their secret police thing. That's all. No big deal. Needless to say, there's a lot of stuff in this bill. It's being pushed through while everybody's nice and distracted looking the other way. Let's take a little look here and see what we got. Let's see where our tax dollars are going, right? And what's going on here. Because the last time I checked, spending bills were due in September, not December. Definitely not 20 December, 5 days before the date of 25 December, which some of you may know is it's like an event.
I brought with me the Omni, 4,155 pages.
4,155 pages, $1.7 trillion for 1 year. That's our government. That's our money.
When was it produced? In the dead of the night, 1:30 in the morning when it was released. Now, people argue that it's conservatives' fault. You don't have the Christmas spirit. Somehow you're holding up government. Well, whose job is it to produce this? The people in charge of spending. The people in charge of both of the parties. When did they know that this would be necessary? Well, it's in the law, September 30th. You got 9 months, almost 10 months, to produce a plan, to have a spending plan. They weren't ready on September 30th. So they voted themselves 90 more days. They weren't ready last week either.
I don't care what you think about Rand Paul. What he is saying is fact. This is due 30 September. It is now 20 December, 5 days before Christmas. And we get this. They weren't ready last week. They're ready now. What pages of the 4,100 and 57 were not completed last week? What pages were not completed 30 September? I would like to know. Just off the cuff, right? But because I'm not going to read 4,100 pages of federal pork spending, and neither is Congress. You going to read 4,000 pages of federal spending and keep track of what you read?
And now we have it at 1:30 in the morning this morning. But what's the clamor? The clamor is to vote. Vote now. Let's get it done. Why are you standing in the way of spending? Well, the real question is this. What is more dangerous? What is more dangerous to the country? $1.1 trillion in new debt Or as Republican leadership likes to say, oh, but it's a win. It's a big win. We're getting $45 billion for the military. So which is more important?
Is that what conservatives are worried about? More money for the military at this point? Really? That's their win? Oh, it gets worse. McConnell talks about this as a win because he got more money for defense. Defense? What is defense? What is defense? Defense of the country, right? Is that where you, have more F-35s? Or is that where you start small, like enforcing laws, keeping the American people safe? Because the American people right now are more worried about the criminals running amok in the cities and next door than they are about Chinese troops parachuting into their backyard, or a bunch of people flooding across your borders. Borders define countries, right? No, we need more B-21s and F-35s, right? Yeah. We gotta replenish the ammunition stocks that we've sent to Ukraine. Speaking of Ukraine, yeah, so the spending package includes about $45 billion in emergency assistance to Ukraine. Plus, okay, what we've already sent them. Ukraine is now in the government spending bill. It's the biggest American infusion of assistance yet to Ukraine, above even President Joe Biden's $37 billion emergency request, and will ensure that funding flows to the war for months to come. How many months? 12 months? For the next year? Nah, just a few months probably. Because we don't need a spending bill to send money to Ukraine, do we? No, we do not. We just sent them $37 billion. That was President Joe Biden's contribution. He generously contributed that, using your money, of course.
Which threatens the country more? Are we at risk for being invaded by a foreign power if we don't put $45 billion into the military? Or are we more at risk by adding to a $31 trillion debt?
Ukraine gets as much money as our military gets. The Republican side is good with this. They call it a win. It's a win. We got $45 billion for the military. All you conservatives like the military, don't you? Well, look what we got.
I think the greatest risk to our national security is our debt. The process stinks. It's an abomination. It's a no good, rotten way to run your government. $6 trillion entity, and they want 24 hours to process this, and then they want to go forward.
If we don't pass this, if this doesn't pass, the government has to shut down. Okay, good. You know what? Good. Because if the government cannot run without a $1.7 trillion budget, then it needs to be shut down. That's it. That's all there is to it. Because it ain't worth it. We couldn't trim any more off of this. If $1.7 trillion was lowball, I ain't buying. It's not a good investment. So shut it down. But it won't, will it?
And I think in a highly productive way from the point of view of the vast majority of Senate Republicans. This omnibus bill that'll be on the floor provides a real dollar increase for the defense baseline and a real dollar cut for the non-defense baseline if you exclude veterans. That is absolutely critical in breaking the pattern we've had in the past when we've ended up in one of these situations where every time Republicans tried to get an increase in defense, we would in effect have to pay a ransom to the Democrats on the domestic side.
Oh, okay. Well, they got scraps from the master's table, right? Yeah, so we should be happy. It's a win. Do you see this as a win, as he states? We got more money for the military? Okay, well, thank God. You know, it's a $1.7 trillion bill, 4,000 plus pages. with Ukraine getting the same amount of funding that the military got, but at least the military got some money.
So, admittedly, I'm pretty proud of the fact that with a Democratic president, a Democratic House, and a Democratic Senate, we were able to achieve, through this omnibus spending bill, essentially all of our priorities.
Well, there you go. You should be happy, right? He did a good job. He's really proud. This is insanity. So here we are. 31 trillion right now at US national debt. Let's put this into perspective a little bit here. So in 1980, we were at 932 billion. Not even a trillion. Let's go to 2008, 11 trillion. 2016, looking at 20 trillion. This is where we're at today. $31 trillion national debt. I want to know what part of the bill was not finished before 30 September, because I really don't see it as a coincidence that this went through 5 days before Christmas. Well, at least we got our awesome government for the next year. And it only cost us $1.7 trillion. We are building a failure. We are building the collapse of an economy, of a society, a civilization, a country. We are engineering the demise of freedom and liberty for the low, low price of $1.7 trillion per year. Merry freaking Christmas, I guess. Real quick, I made it sound like the entire military budget was $45 billion. Obviously, that's not the case. They have 700 and something billion for defense, and they've gotten 45 or so billion more. They're up to 800 billion and something for our military. I just wanted to clarify that. And also, I wanted to issue kind of a word of caution. I have heard several of these politicians speaking out against the spending bill, but you have to be careful when you're listening to these scumbags, because just because they didn't have a seat at this table doesn't mean they aren't doing other things and having a part or a seat at other tables. You see a lot of this where they don't have a part of this specific deal, so they'll go ahead and call it out because they know it's wrong, but they'll also be participating or benefiting from some other thing that is wrong. Hypocrisy, basically. Keep an eye out for that. It's pretty rampant. You'll notice it a lot. Just wanted to clarify an issue and make sure that people were still watching for the hypocrites, because they abound.